Nyangji Jimbo Zoden Ying Me Ya Zone Molam Jimbo Ngabjada Takardang Sandu Shermado Tomba Tuji Janla Gipshansa Shawame Juji Yangji Portana Tisum Sanji Gunjing Nye Ransum Churgang Sum Tons Tsai Lama Namla Gipshansa Doson Roy Lorna Chula Jer. Welcome all of you. Good morning, and thank you very much for coming. There he is. Today, we're going to talk about Buddha nature. It's the main topic for this teaching. First of all, you should know that there are three things. Let's see. What is Buddha nature? Why Buddha taught Buddha nature? Why is it important? And what's the benefit practice of Buddha nature? So actually, this topic of Buddha nature is important. But make sure that you understand this is not the pointing out instruction. The nature of your mind. That's a little bit different. This is introduction. I'm going to introduce to you the Buddha nature that we all possess. It's so important to understand. But before we start the teaching, as you know, it is important to have a Mahayana motivation and attitude. I always say this, right? We have to correct our motivation, which is generating some kind of love and compassion towards all sentient beings, and try to sort of purify your negative intentions. This is very important, not for only today, right? Whenever you practice, you listen teaching, whatever, this kind of Mahayana motivation, love, compassion towards all sentient beings is so important, because usually our dualistic mind is extremely selfish and has the wrong conception or wrong view. So, like, for instance, we always think like, if I give this, I will get that in return or back, See, that's based on a selfish mind. But when we generate some kind of Mahayana mind, we're not sort of hope for something return or get back, which is we're doing it without selfishness. So our generosity is very genuine, That's why it's important. And if we do nothing to correct our motivation, when we start to practice, listen teaching, then our practices are nothing but a sign of selfishness. So that's not good. I want to let you know that before we start teaching Buddha nature, we have to really have this correct motivation, Mahayana motivation, Because as you know, the quality of any action is determined by the motivation behind that action. So we must be as aware as possible of the reasons why we are doing something for someone else. Therefore, please try as much as possible to check up on your motivation. If you do that, that is actually Dharma practice. Check your motivation. If we don't control and transform the negative mind, then there is no such thing as Dharma practice. Because Dharma practice in Dharma deals directly with your motivation. That is the essence of Dharma practice. So we must recognize the negative mind for what it is, and then slowly begin to find a solution. That is how we control our mind, this dualistic mind, negative mind, which is selfish, right? Selfish mind. So in this way, your mind can be free if you try to control, peaceful, free. So then your realizations will have a chance to grow if your mind sort of free from negative emotions. Then you have chance to, for instance, today the Buddha nature, right? So you have chance the realization of Buddha nature will grow slowly, or maybe you have the recognition if your mind free. If your mind is not free, full of negativities, emotions, no way to recognize the Buddha nature, right? That's why we have to really think about our motivation. And then also, I always say this, you must realize the value of the teachings and practice them. Because, Buddha recognized that cause of all these sufferings and negative emotions we feel in our mind is ignorance. When I think this realization is profound and special, because if we deeply investigate suffering, then we will know that it arises because of ignorance. Okay? Because we don't have the recognition of the true nature of reality. So our self-attachment is so strong, right? Because we don't know our fundamental nature, so we suffer. And generally, when the teachings say that we are suffering because of ignorance, when we say this, people don't really like to hear that, right? People don't think, they don't really feel that they are ignorant. When we use the ignorance, this word, many people don't like it to hear. But if you investigate what is meant by the Buddhist concept of ignorance, then I think you will start to understand how that is cause of all your suffering. I think this teaching that ignorance is the root cause of all our suffering is very unique to Buddhism. I just want to share you that. As far as I know other religions, I don't think they have this kind of teachings, if I'm not wrong. So that's why, you know, this teaching is, you know, very special, and we should contemplate this. Ignorance is not something on the outside, right? It is something completely on our mind. Because of this, the Buddha said we should try to be less attachment to external things and work instead on our mental training. So, as a serious Buddhist student, we have to really know that wisdom is the most important things in Buddhism. Because in order to purify ignorance, we have to develop wisdom. And especially in Mahayana Buddhism, so important, the wisdom. Because in Buddha's teachings, he says that even when we talk about things like practice, discipline, things like motivation, contemplation, or even Buddha nature, they should always be based on wisdom. Otherwise, you are not going to understand completely. So this is a very important, because you will not find any Buddhist text saying that as a Buddhist you must believe in your practice, or you must believe in Buddha, or you must believe in karma, or you must believe in what Buddha said, But you must always act based on your wisdom. That's why we are very unique. Humans are very unique being, We have this kind of wisdom. Unfortunately, animals, they don't have that kind of wisdom, actually. So we know what is correct, what is not correct, because of wisdom. If you develop our wisdom, then we know we have this capacity. And when you're able to do that, whatever arises in your mind becomes great wisdom, then not ignorance. Then we know what to do, what to adopt, what to abandon. Then we know. So, next time, if you are emotionally upset, you should investigate the situation that makes you upset instead of immediately acting, If you can do that, then you will find a wonderful experience from it. And then you will learn something from your emotions. So, that is your wisdom. That is what I meant, develop wisdom. So if you do something wrong, you investigate that situation, you will find something, important solution, and you will understand, or you will learn something from that mistaking. That is what we call wisdom. Therefore, meditation is important. And meditation is not only the development of single point concentration, but meditation is also the development of wisdom. That's why meditation is so important. So you come here, listen teaching, you understand something, maybe Buddha nature, intellectually you don't practice. What is the reason? Nothing. You can't practice, you can't develop your wisdom. So, as you know, the Buddha's teaching contains three major points, right? Discipline, meditation, and wisdom. You see, wisdom is the goal, the most important one. And meditation is the crucial process to achieve this wisdom. And discipline, your attitude is important. And discipline is the method that helps you to achieve great and deep meditation. So then what? Then your wisdom will arise, will grow. So, you see the ignorance blocks wisdom and obscures the true nature of mind. So meditation, a discipline, meditation, wisdom. That's the solution, how to purify ignorance. If we don't see sort of this fundamental ignorance of misperceiving the way things are, then ignorance will continue to be the number one cause of all our suffering. So the Buddhist definition of ignorance is not understanding the true nature of reality. That is the characteristic of ignorance. Because Buddha is saying that you don't genuinely experience things the way they truly are. Right? Buddha say that. That's the reason why we are suffering. We don't sort of genuinely experience the reality. For instance, like Buddha nature. I'm going to talk about it. So that's why we are suffering. Instead of we develop all this negative attachment, anger, jealousy, all this, right? That's the reason why we are suffering, because of lack of the wisdom. Okay, that's a general, like Buddhist sort of some information, basic teachings that really you need to think about all the time. Now, let's go back to teaching on the Buddha nature. First of all, the word Buddha nature. Word Buddha is Sangji in Tibetan. You see, Sang means purified or awakened. Okay? Meaning that all defects and faults, such as disturbing emotions, negative afflictions, and obscurations, all of this have been completely purified or removed or diminished. That is meaning of Tibetan word Sang. Okay? Sang, Ji. In Tibet, Buddha, right? Buddha means Sang, Ji. I mean, this is huge. Even like two words, Sang, Ji, has like so many, explanations, especially Buddhist philosophy. But I'm not going to go there. So just give you very detailed, not detailed, but the meaning of the song is, you understand, right? Everything, all this negative, all this, have been completely purified or removed or diminished. That what Buddha, the Tibetan word sang, And Ji is opposite, meaning Ji means fully developed. Ji means developed, okay? Meaning that the enlightened one, has fully developed all the wisdom of the enlightened qualities. That is Ji, developed. That is what we call the Buddha, okay, or Sangji. Buddha nature, the seed of that Buddha. Why someone who be able to purify all of these negative things? And why someone who can develop all the qualities, enlightened qualities, the great wisdom? Why? Because there is essence, there is the Buddha nature. That's the reason. And that essence we all possess. We all possess the Buddha nature, all the basic goodness, okay? Some teachers translate. They don't use Buddha nature, they use basic goodness. It's the same meaning, which is the seed of liberation. For example, Buddhist, first we take refuge in Buddha Shakyamuni, for instance, right? And then we become his disciple, right? And then we follow, that means become his disciple means we follow his path. And then if you practice, eventually we attain liberation. So that is possible because of Buddha nature. That is possible. So again, the characteristic of Buddha nature is described in the Uttara-tanta. It says, okay, Buddha nature is uncreated and spontaneous and not to be realized through external causes. It is possessed of knowledge. Okay, there's three things in Tibet also, like Chinba. Chinba is knowledge. Tsewa, compassionate love. Tsewa. And Niba is ability. Chimba, Tsewa, Nipa, Chinti, Nisum. Okay, in Tibet. This is the definition of Buddha. Someone who fully developed the enlightened qualities. Then they have this, the Chimba, Tsewa, Nipa means knowledge and compassionate love and ability, capacity. So again, according to the Uttara-tanta, Buddha nature is uncreated. Uncreated. It is not a thing. It is not a thing. Okay? Because it has no beginning and therefore no birth. It is beyond end, and therefore Buddha nature has no sort of exhaustion or cessation. Therefore, it is not created. Buddha nature is free from all these extremes. Okay? And that freedom is what we call Dharmakaya, the nature of reality. Okay? Buddha nature is beyond all the extremes of body, speech, and mind. That's why we call it spontaneously accomplished. It is the realization of what we already sort of naturally possess, the potential for liberation, Buddhahood. And this is something that we can only be recognized by the wisdom of self-awareness and not to be realized through external causes. Therefore, we never attain or understand the state of Buddha nature with external conditions. And you might think, then who understands Buddha nature? It's very difficult to understand as long as we say like Buddha, this is like not like it's beyond all of these extremes. All we know with this dualistic mind, everything extremes, something, you know. But Buddha nature is beyond extremes, then it's really hard to understand as an ordinary person. So therefore, you know, who understands Buddha nature? So I think this way is good if I explain correctly to understand Buddha nature. There are two different ways to understand Buddha nature: intellectually and experientially. Okay? For instance, maybe after this teaching, you will understand some of it intellectually. I have no expectation that after this teaching you will recognize the Buddha nature experientially, but I hope you will understand some of it intellectually. So you can achieve this through sort of hearing and contemplating the teachings, investigate, you know, the teachings. Then you will understand what is the Buddha nature, why it is important. At least intellectually, you know. And to understand Buddha nature experientially, you need to go further. Meaning, you need to receive the pointing out instructions. You need to meditate. You need then, all these instructions. And then realization, your realization, tokpa in Tibet, tok means then realization will arise. Realization, this intellectual realization, totally different. It's up to you. So again, now what is Buddha nature? What is Buddha nature? Buddha nature has at least, I mean, like I will give you some, you know, the definition of Buddha nature. You know, Buddha nature has three qualities. Remember, as I said, knowledge, compassion, you know, compassionate love or ability. That is Buddha nature. Okay? You can understand when I say knowledge, compassion, ability. You can understand this relatively and ultimately. They are slightly different. And having these three qualities is what we call great wisdom. Great wisdom. This is so important because in order to lead other beings onto the path and attain liberation, we need these three qualities: knowledge, compassion, ability. Okay? Without these three qualities, that what we call ordinary beings. So, as I said, actually, I think, it is not easy, right? Easy to talk about Buddha nature because we cannot understand it through the dualistic mind. For example, when we talk about these qualities, from an ordinary point of view, we immediately think of a person who has these qualities, right? And we think about someone who does the knowing, and someone who has the compassion and ability. That's what we think, but that's not quite right. Because the moment that we think about something like that, you see, then it's a compounded sort of phenomena, Then then it is dependent, Then that means it will change. Then it will, ceased or stopped, So remember, we said Buddha nature is uncreated, spontaneous. It is opposite all of this. So we need to understand that the ultimate Buddha nature is beyond all of this. Shantandewa, the great Indian master, said, ultimate reality is beyond the scope of the intellect. The intellect is called conventional truth or reality. And also in the Dhamma Sutra, Buddha himself said, those who see me as a form, those who hear me as a sound, they have wrong view. Therefore, the ultimate Buddha nature is beyond all conceptions. So Buddha nature is not created, and it is not, again, compounded. It is not compounded. As long as we're talking about compounded, then we are not beyond the extremes. Then that something is not beyond extremes, that is not ultimate reality. You have to understand that. When we talk about something being created or compounded, then we're talking about extremes. We're talking about something that either exists or doesn't exist. That's what I mean. Nagarjuna talks about Buddha nature is beyond extremes. This is so important to understand. And that is, this great teacher's, profound view. Buddha nature is beyond extremes. That is great view. Buddha nature is spontaneously present. When we say this, Buddha nature is spontaneously present, the Mahayana Sutras said, whether the Buddha come or not, the true nature of phenomena never changes. It has always been like that. It is intrinsic sort of nature. And It is not as though things have only been emptiness or Buddha nature since Buddha started teaching. No. Whether the Buddha came or not, nature is always nature. You can't change that. That's why they call it spontaneously present. The truth is everything, and everything is Buddha nature. You see, an ordinary person, the mind is always divided against itself, always disturbing its own sort of peace. But from the nature point of view, there is no difference at all between the ultimate nature of Buddha and the ultimate nature of our own minds. That is why in the Buddhist teachings there is no big difference between ourselves and others. Because with this fundamental nature, right? In that point of view, there is no difference. So you should know this. There is only one element or one nature, and that is Buddha nature, the basic goodness that we all have. We all have. But we have to discover it. Nitpa, tokpa, in Tibetan. Nitpa means discover. Discover means something there, but you don't know. So you have to discover it through your meditation, using your wisdom mind, not dualistic mind. We have to discover it because right now it is completely beyond all of us. We have no idea what is this nature. When we say spontaneously present, we have no idea. All we have right now is this dualistic mind. No question. If you are ordinary being, if you are not ordinary being, I'm not talking, that kind of person. And I don't know. I'm sure some of you, there are lots of, people who are not ordinary being. But if you're ordinary being, that means you can't control your mind because of all of these negative emotions. So with that, there is no recognition of this essence. So we have to discover it. When we say we have to discover it, how do we discover it? Remember, it is not through external causes and conditions. No way. So we need to practice meditation. And we need to follow the instructions of an authentic teacher. That's all we need to do. In order to discover our nature, our Buddha nature, our basic goodness, we have to do that through meditation and follow the instructions someone who already discovered. All we need to do is to eliminate all these temporary sort of obscurations, like Buddha Shakyamuni himself. Because he was a normal, ordinary human being who came to earth, and he achieved enlightenment. And after that, he taught Buddha nature, others. And also he taught others how he achieved enlightenment. These shows, you see, this is to me is a very important thing. Buddha Shakyamuni was as just ordinary like us, and through his meditation, he achieved enlightenment. This shows that an ordinary being, human being like us, can achieve enlightenment. This is why our practice works. This is why, our lineage, blessings works. This is why all the methods that we use work for our meditation. And this is why we really need to practice. So, we're very fortunate, because we have this precious human body with a wisdom mind. And it gives us the ability to discover, this Buddha nature during this present lifetime, right? The Buddha nature within each of us. As I said, Buddha nature is not created, but it's naturally present. So when I say this, it's hard to understand. Spontaneously present, uncreated, what is that? So difficult to understand, not create but present. You might think it's impossible, right? It's uncreated, it's not compounded, it's beyond extremes, but present. It's kind of like contradict, with our dualistic mind. But there is not, it's really true, If you discover and if you meditate, you will see it. It's really true. This is not something that you never experience. Something that we're talking is never experience. You will experience. You will understand. You will recognize if you have correct instructions and if you practice. There is not a single living being who lacks this potential. Their Buddha nature. As I said, only we human beings have the chance to discover it. If we discover it and recognize it, as we develop deeper, we receive more powerful realizations, and this result eventually in our attainment of true liberation. That's why we are very fortunate. There's no doubt in my mind how fortunate we are. We, is including all beings possess this nature. Yet very few people realize it. Most beings never recognize this nature, and they don't even know they have it. I mentioned this many times. Buddha nature is like a beautiful lotus flower growing in a cave that is facing north. Do you remember this? And never receives the sunlight of the pointing out instructions. And no one sees this beautiful lotus flower. No one knows it is there. It dies right there. That is like all beings who have this beautiful Buddha nature within their mind, this basic goodness, full of this, precious qualities. But we don't recognize it and pass through our entire lives without recognizing this nature and suffer all the time under ignorance and gone through entire lives, and then we die without discovering it. Such a waste of precious thing. That's why Buddha himself said that we are suffering because of ignorance. That's the definition of ignorance. We don't recognize this true nature. That's why we are suffering. That's why ignorance is the number one cause of suffering. You see, we don't recognize this basic goodness because of ignorance. If we really think about this nature, we will see many people know nothing about it. How sad is that? If you ask an ordinary person, talk about Buddha nature, no idea. Maybe they think you're crazy. What are you talking about? Uncreated, spontaneously present. What is that? Many people know nothing about this. Only the enlightened beings have this capacity. So we just to follow them and practice the instructions put into your practice, and then you will recognize, and then you're free from ignorance. Means you understand the reality. Then you have less attachment, less anger, right? When you meditate Buddha nature. So we could actually discover who we are through this practice. The more look into your experience, the more you discover your own being and your own sort of authentic existence. Right now, we are like the lotus in the cave, but we have an opportunity to discover it through meditation. Okay? So this is about what is the Buddha nature. I will teach you more, but now we have to meditate for a few minutes. Meditation is so important. Very, very important. Without meditation, we cannot develop anything. But again, it's good to begin our meditation by including all other beings, right, who are suffering, and that's what we call Mahayana a kind mind motivation, which means we are meditating on behalf of all other beings, not only sort of human beings, but also this includes everybody, animals and all beings. So don't forget, this motivation is always important. Today, see, I would like you to practice relaxing the mind. If your mind is not relaxed, there's no chance to discover Buddha nature. So this is sort of a foundation. The relaxing the mind is the foundation of, recognize Buddha nature. When we try to relax in our mind, during meditation, different feelings arise, different thoughts will arise, right? But you should recognize them and set your mind to rest naturally, and don't follow your thoughts. Just to be present and try to free. Then your mind can relax. and a mind that is less stressed, fatigued, and more clear and peaceful will naturally create happiness and will naturally help solve so many human problems. So relaxing mind is the key. Because the benefit of relaxing mind is when your mind is relaxed, and peaceful, without distractions, you radiate positive energy that influence your environment. So you are in touch with a wisdom that guides you to act skillfully, and that is Mahayana's path. So resting without thought, is the foundation of Buddha nature meditation. And when your thoughts arise, your mind wanders away, you immediately recognize it, and then just relax there. If you do this meditation, it can help you learn how to continue to relax. The first time it's hard to relax the mind completely. That's totally fine. Don't worry about it. But if you sort of continue, try to relax your mind, then you will know how to relax without losing your self-awareness. That's the benefit of relaxed mind. Okay, so the instruction is just to relax your body, not too tight, not too loose. Relax your body, your mind, and naturally. Okay, breathe in and out naturally. Today we're talking about the reality, right? So meditation is important, but do not think big deal. You have to meditate naturally, so that your mind can relax. If you have too much expectation, hope, your meditation will not go well. Meditation is Buddhist, point of view. Meditation is a part of life. It's like when you eat, when you drink, naturally, right? No big deal. Always we do eat, but we don't recognize, and our mind is not relaxing. Always thinking. So many thoughts. That's why we cannot control our mind. So relax naturally. And when you have feeling, you have lots of thoughts, totally fine. Don't worry about it. If you want, just recognize them. Don't follow, because your thoughts, emotions are not nature of your mind. So they have no power if you don't follow them. They are going to dissolve into your nature mind, because nature of relaxation, relax the mind is the nature, is reality. So it has more power, than negative thoughts. But we just follow them. We are thinking And we have thoughts one after another. We follow, then endless. But you just recognize, relax naturally, and then they're going to, there's no essence. They dissolve into in your mind awareness. That's so important. Okay, meditate 5 minutes.